Dando sequência à série de entrevistas que o AgTech Garage News traz com gestores de inovação, hoje você assiste a conversa com Dan Leibfried, da John Deere. Acompanhe.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I would like to know what are the priorities on the John Deere innovation pipeline. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so really it comes down to two things: smarter machines that get smarter over time and enabling better decisions. So when we think about the pipeline of technology around smarter machines, it's applying sensor technology on the machine with high performance computing and deep learning algorithms to both sense different things in the field and ultimately act on those senses. For instance, in things like See and Spray, utilizing cameras to sense the difference between a weed and the crop and only applying herbicide to the weeds. It allows them to reduce herbicides by up to 90%, which is not only good for the environment, but also good for profitability of agriculture. That's the one piece. The second piece around making better decisions, our John Deere Operations Center is a very open platform connected to over 200 companies across the globe, including companies here in Brazil and even more going forward as we partner with AgTech Garage. The data platform is used to help farmers make decisions in real time to better manage their operations, as well as drive better efficiency in the overall value chain.
And can you give us examples, like highlight the main projects? We have the autonomous tractor that you released recently. Can you give us other examples too?
I can think of things that are already in the market on sugarcane harvesters. We have technology with cameras in the actual elevator of the cane harvester that sense both the yield coming through of the sugarcane and geospatially map it, as well as understand if there are things other than cane coming through and adjust the overall machine settings in order to optimize that. That's one example. In the combine, for grain harvesting, we also have cameras in that system to sense the quality of the grain going into the overall bin of the machine, and ultimately making adjustments in order to optimize that throughout the day as the conditions change. Technologies like ExactEmerge, which we've been in the market for several years, allow customers to get very precise planting of soybeans or cotton or corn, and ultimately not only drive high levels of precision, but you can increase your speed as a result of the electric drives on the system in order to increase your productivity. So huge examples of utilizing technology to drive agricultural productivity and sustainability.
And talking more about the John Deere Operations Center, how do you feel about integrating it with other machines and solutions on the market?
Yeah, there's a huge opportunity. When you think about agriculture, it's not just John Deere machines, it's other brands or other pieces of equipment or service vehicles that are ultimately bringing things like seed or fertilizer to the equipment or taking grain away from it. Having all of this fleet connected to the John Deere Operations Center is an essential element to driving the productivity, and especially in a place like Brazil. In Brazil, with the intense double cropping that happens in many areas of the country, the ability to manage your operation when you're both harvesting and ultimately planting at or around the same time is absolutely essential to value.
And how are you working with startups also here in Brazil to develop solutions together and integrate like the management of the machines?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll maybe start back a little bit earlier than just the present and walk into the present. So it was about 5 or so years ago that we started to integrate more with startups, including our acquisition of a startup in Silicon Valley called Blue River Technology. That's been an awesome journey together. John Deere machines, John Deere base core technology with Blue River experience around things like See and Spray and autonomy. It's really accelerated our capabilities as an organization to deliver value. We started a startup collaborator program in the U.S., based out of the U.S., but it wasn't just U.S. based, we'll say. We've actually had companies like Data Farm, who's a Brazilian company around soil soil sensing and several more ideas in their pipeline as one of our earlier companies in our startup collaborator, and we continue to work with them to this day. We acquired another startup last year that we've been working with in our startup collaborator program called Bear Flag Robotics. Again, another piece to helping us drive autonomy at an even faster rate. And then we've announced just over the last few months our partnership with AgTech Garage. We're an innovation partner with AgTech Garage in Piracicaba. It's really opening our eyes to the opportunities of partnering with startups, more open innovation, because the reality is farmers don't farm alone, and they don't just farm with John Deere. As much as we'd like to say that we're the only partner that they have, we know that there's other options out there in the ecosystem, and having an open data platform like the John Deere Operations Center allows us to partner with startups.
Coming back a little bit on the autonomous tractor, why did you develop it? Can you make the connection with the demands from your clients?
Absolutely. You know, a couple reasons why we believe autonomy is a key piece of the future. The reality is, as populations grow and as food demand grows, doing more with less is going to be a critical factor. And not just managing the inputs, but ensuring that you have the right amount of labor and upskill that labor to do the most important tasks in the operation. There's not more and more people moving to rural areas across the globe, and in fact, they're going the other way. So having autonomy technology in our pipeline is going to be essential to both driving performance of execution of the job in the field, as well as mitigating the labor challenges that are persistent throughout several areas of the globe. We have a wealth of opportunity still ahead of us in autonomy. We're just at the beginning. We have this strong view that there will be a fully autonomous production system for whether it be soy or corn or the combination of the two or other value chains by the end of this decade. So we're really stretching ourselves to not just go, but to go fast.
And when is it coming to Brazil?
That's a very, very important question, and one that I get quite often. You know, we're pushing to bring some units into Brazil over the course of this year to start experimenting, which is really how we're now developing more and more of our technology, experimenting and innovating with customers. And as we bring it in and we start to get some of the learnings, we'll be able to better answer the timeline question after we get some real world experience in the Brazil market with autonomy.
And now that we have gone through the pipeline and all the steps that you are doing with startups, what are your expectations to develop technologies here in Brazil and with the help of AgTech Garage?
Yeah, I think we've got the industry at large sees Brazil as a huge opportunity. The customers, the overall players in seed, chemical, fertilizer, as well as in equipment. Brazil is a critical component to feeding the world going forward. And the pace of change of Brazilian agriculture over not just the course of the last 40 years as it's really developed, but over the course of the last 5, we see that we're at a major inflection point as a company, and the opportunity in Brazil is only going to get greater as we go throughout the course of the next decade. So we're looking at what investments we need to make, what investments we need to accelerate, who we need to partner with, and how we ultimately become great partners to our customers here in the market over the course of the next year.
And you have chosen 2 startups here in Brazil to work with John Deere on the next few months. Have you had the opportunity to meet with them? What do you think about this project?
One of the big elements that our collaborator program over the course of the last few years was put in place for is to mentor startups and give them access and support in the learnings that we've had in development of technology, to give them access and support to customers and to channel partners to help support their efforts in learning with customers. I think that's a valuable piece for them to accelerate their offering and move it from idea to real world proof of concepts, and ultimately if it turns out well for them, it becomes something that they start to scale. So we're absolutely excited about the opportunities with AgTech Garage, a few of the startups we've worked with so far, and we know that we're just at the beginning.
And then the sustainability is something that's key for us here in AgTech Garage and for John Deere too, as I know. And I would like to have more examples like of what you are doing on this field. Do you have a partnership with a startup regarding electric vehicles too? And I would like to know a little bit more of it.
Yeah, so I'll give you a few things on this. Number one, in February of this year, just in the past few months, John Deere released our sustainability report, where we set what we're referring to as our LEAP ambitions, goals between now and 2026 and goals between now and 2030. And a significant amount of those goals are around sustainability. We take it very seriously, as do our customers. Our customers are ultimately stewards of the land, and that's an important piece to remember. These people are generational farmers, and they want to take care of their land just as much as those that aren't in farming want them to take care of their land. When it comes to the things that we're working on, so around electrification, we've made investments in a company based out of Austria called Kreisel. In order to accelerate our learnings relative to electric vehicles. There's likely some areas where the adoption will happen first, and that's where we're focusing. And there's some areas where the technology is not quite ready to match the needs and the intensity of the operations at extremely large scale. So we're making experiments in that area and have made the investment in Kreisel. In things like alternative fuels, we've made investments in clear flame technology based in the U.S. in order to experiment and understand what alternative fuels could be viable, both from an infrastructure standpoint as well as performance. So those are two examples. The third one I'll give you goes right back to here to the state of Sao Paulo, and that's Data Farm. Data Farm and John Deere have been working on pilots and experiments in the market to understand how to measure the carbon in the soil, develop a baseline, understand what practices could impact that even more positively going forward, and then ultimately find solutions that can demonstrate improved sustainability in agriculture. So the sky's the limit. We're at the early stages of a lot of these areas in technology, but the experiments and the customer support in making this all happen is just absolutely exciting.
And what are the main challenges regarding the biomethane and the electric vehicles? I
don't want to go too deep into this because we could probably spend hours on it and get other even deeper experts. I think there's a couple though. First and foremost is infrastructure. When you think of electric vehicles, in electric machines in agriculture to start with, you need to ensure that you have the infrastructure for charging. You need to think about the fact that these machines don't just run for 30 or 40 minutes or 1 or 2 hours. Sometimes the agriculture machines are used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So thinking about how you can both charge, recharge, swap out batteries, have the infrastructure in place for that. I think the infrastructure is a challenge. Same thing with biomethane. The ability to handle it, to get it into the system, to transport it safely and put it into the system safely. Those are some of the challenges. These aren't challenges that will persist forever, but they're some of today's challenges that we're going to have to continue to work through.
And how about the farmers' behavior? How do you feel it changing in the U.S. and here in Brazil?
Like all things, adoption isn't universal and standard across the entire customer base all on the same day. So like all technologies, the natural S-curve does apply. So you have early adopters that have been all in on core technologies through digitalization as soon as they possibly could, and you have others that are going to look to their neighbors, their friends, and other influencers to make the decision on when they're ready to go. But en masse, I would say I've seen agricultural adoption of technology, including digitalization, expanding at a very rapid rate. Farmers or producers across the globe recognize doing more with less is not easy, and without data, it's really difficult to understand, are you making the right choices? So I see agriculture producers in the U.S., in Europe, in Australia, and in Brazil and South America at large, adopting the opportunities that digitalization provides them. There's always going to be challenges in figuring out how to turn data into insights, and ultimately not just insights, but decisions and actions. And we're going through that curve right now. Again, another exciting opportunity and something that I think will transform. We'll look back 10 to 15 to 20 years from now and go, just like GPS guidance, how did we ever farm without the rich information coming out of the system to help us to make better decisions in our overall operations?
Then I would like to know which were your challenges working with big data, because it's something that all entrepreneurs, they want to have this information, but it's difficult to generate value for the farmer. How a big company like John Deere deal with it?
Yeah, I think number one, you have to think first and foremost about what questions are the most important questions to ask. When you come up with the questions, then you can start to say, what data do I need in order to answer that question? And not just what data, but at what frequency, at what time. Is it real time? Is it near real time? Is it I don't need this information until 6 months from now? Finding out the question that you need to ask, I think, is the first step, and then ultimately understanding what data streams you need in order to help answer those questions, I think is still the opportunity in a lot of the space. But that's kind of how I look at it. I think things like cloud computing, I think connectivity, and we still have opportunities for improved infrastructure across the globe, and in particular in Brazil with connectivity. If you have a question that needs to be asked and your question requires more real-time data in order to act on it, if you don't have connectivity, it's a real barrier. So I think the challenges are what questions to ask. Do I have connectivity to support the need where real time is absolutely critical? That's another challenge. And then being able to think about cause and effect, and ultimately understand that the data turned into insights and actions led to the value that you were promised as an adopter.
And here in Brazil, we are coming with the first steps on 5G, the connectivity and everything. Do you think this is going to be a game changer for agriculture?
Yeah, I've had this discussion in other areas of the globe. The reality is, if I'm direct and frank on this, the reality is we need connectivity, whether it's 3G or 4G today. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes we talk about the next generation, 5G or 6G or other things down the road. The reality is we need the base level of connectivity as a starting point. 5G will open up new opportunities. The world has shown that bandwidth, lower latency are appreciated when they're in place. But when they don't exist at all, it's really frustrating. So ensuring that we at least get to a base foundation and then we can build from there, I think, is probably the most essential point at this point.
As a innovation executive, what keeps you up at night?
Wow, that's a really good question. I'd say it's continuously engaging people, and not just inside of John Deere as a company, but engaging our channel partners in our journey, engaging customers, engaging our customers' operators, getting them up to speed on how to best utilize the technology. One of the biggest challenges is just making sure that people know what they have, they know how to utilize it. It's intuitive, and ultimately they get the value out of it. So for me, the biggest piece is at the rate of change that we're going when it comes to technology development, ensuring that the entire chain of people from inside of John Deere to partners to John Deere dealers to the customers to the operators are all well educated on what they have and how to utilize it and get the most out of it. That's likely what keeps me up at night the most.
What would you say to an operator that have to deal with the release of the autonomous tractor? Like in the future, are we going to need these people on the field?
I absolutely believe that people are going to be essential. And again, this isn't a labor reduction opportunity from my perspective. It's really about utilizing the labor, the people that farms have available to them to do the highest value-added job on the farm. There's a lot going on when it comes to agriculture, and in a place like Brazil, again, with the intensity of double cropping and the mass scale, people are going to have jobs. I don't think that that's a concern. I don't see us having autonomous farms with no people engaged at all likely in my lifetime. But utilizing the people that are available in the operation to do the highest valuable things that they can apply their talents to, I think is still a piece. So it's not labor reduction, it's really labor augmentation and applying them to the most important problems.
It was a pleasure to talk to you. Is there something you want to add?
Yeah, I would just say it's my pleasure as well. It's an exciting space right now. Agriculture, and in particular here in Brazil, is very, very important, not just to the Brazilian economy, but to the global economy and the global food supply. The amount of progress that Brazil has made, again, over the course of the last 40 years and continues to accelerate. It's an amazing time to be part of agriculture, and John Deere's absolutely committed to continuously innovating, not only internally, but with partners like AgTech Garage and the startups that get connected with it, in order to accelerate the value that customers need in order to do more with less, in order to drive even higher levels of not only agricultural sustainability, but agricultural profitability, which drives sustainability in the end.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.